Today I came into the studio to finally tell the whole truth about veterinary work. Not the polished textbook version, but the real day-to-day reality of large animal vets here in the United States. This is going to be an honest, personal monologue, like we're sitting together at the kitchen table and I'm just telling you what life on American farms actually looks like. Across the country, livestock farms usually fall into two categories. First, you've got the old, outdated facilities, barns and dairy parlors built back in the 60s or 70s. On paper, they look fine, maybe even historic, but in reality, the buildings are falling apart, patched together with whatever materials people had at the time. And second, you've got the new, modern agricultural complexes, big, clean, efficient operations with proper ventilation, automated systems, and solid infrastructure. But those newer facilities, they're a minority. If you take 1,000 farms, maybe 100 of them are truly modern. The rest, well, the rest are those old barns barely holding themselves together. Every year someone says, yeah, we'll renovate it. Just another season. And another season passes, and nothing changes. The walls crumble a little more. The roof leaks a little worse. Pathways are narrow, equipment can't get through. Sometimes there's an old tractor that hasn't been repaired in 10 years, but it's still somehow considered working equipment. A lot of the time, the machines exist only in the paperwork, while in real life, they're a pile of rust propped up in the corner. Now let's talk about animal care. Sure, cows aren't exactly the cleanest animals on earth, but they still need basic sanitation. In a perfect world, barns should be cleaned every day or at least every other day, especially if the barn is 250 feet long and holds a couple hundred cows. But in reality, cleaning might happen once a week. So when you need to walk in, grab a cow for a procedure, make an exam, you're slogging through manure up to your ankles. And forget just the smell. That's a breeding ground for infections, lameness, udder disease, and injuries, both for the cattle and the workers. Washing cows before milking? Another headache. According to proper dairy protocol, you need pre-dip sanitizers, post-dip sealants, proper drying, all standard steps that keep milk clean and prevent mastitis. But many milkers, usually older folks who've been doing this their whole lives, say, we're going to do it the way we've always done it. And they grab a hose, splash some cold water on the cow, hook up the milking unit, and that's that. No sanitizers, no proper prep. And whatever sawdust, sand, or dirt washes into the milk tank, well, nobody seems to care. Speaking of milk, in the U.S. we categorize it differently, but the idea is the same. There's top quality grade A milk, which goes into the bottled milk we drink. Then there's lower grade milk used for cheese, yogurt, and processed dairy. And then there's milk that's technically still sellable, but not high quality. And no one really advertises where it ends up. On the farm where I worked, we consistently produced top-tier milk, but the processing plant kept telling us, we can't pay the premium for it, margins are tight. So they'd market as regular grade milk just to reduce the payout. Not because the milk was worse, just because it was financially convenient. And since farms usually sign exclusive contracts with processors, we couldn't just sell to someone else. Local authorities, regulations, agreements, all of it makes switching buyers nearly impossible. Even milk pickup is complicated. Tanker trucks come to take the milk, but if the farm is far out or the access road is rough, the plant can simply say, we're skipping you. It's not profitable today, and you're stuck with thousands of pounds of milk that might spoil. But one of the hardest things about American agriculture isn't the buildings or the equipment. The biggest problem is incompetent leadership. It happens more often than people think. Someone brings in a friend, a relative, a college buddy, and suddenly that person becomes a manager. No experience with livestock, no agricultural background, nothing. But they get the job, and their role becomes pushing papers, pointing fingers, and blaming everyone else when something goes wrong. And the number one person they blame is always the vet. A typical dairy or beef operation might have tens of thousands of dollars budgeted for veterinary supplies every month, on paper. In reality, that money often gets absorbed by debts, mismanagement, or completely unrelated expenses. And when animals start dying, When you get a cluster of illness, the owners immediately point at the vet. You didn't catch it. You didn't treat it. You didn't prevent it. Never mind that the feed was moldy or the barns weren't cleaned. A friend of mine had 50 head of cattle die in 1 week. Bad feed, confirmed by state inspectors. The official report said the vet wasn't at fault, but the county prosecutor literally told him, look, someone has to take responsibility. And he had to accept financial liability for part of the loss just to avoid harsher consequences. That's what accountability sometimes looks like in agricultural America. Fines? Oh, fines are everywhere. A missing record? A misfiled treatment log? Didn't note a sick cow fast enough? That's hundreds of dollars gone. And sometimes you're simply too overwhelmed to keep up. You're pulling a calf, stitching a wound, treating a fever, and you physically don't have the 5 minutes to run to the office and sign another form. But the system doesn't care, and the general atmosphere on some farms can be rough. It's Monday morning, the manager is in a bad mood. You forget to say hello, and suddenly your hours get reduced. A worker shows up exhausted, maybe stressed from home, but still sober and ready to work, and they get penalized because they don't look presentable. It sounds ridiculous, but it happens. This is the reality behind American livestock production. And that's what I wanted to talk about, honestly. Let's talk about carcass disposal sites, the American equivalent of livestock burial grounds. These are designated areas where dead animals must be stored or disposed of under strict state regulations. By law, the area has to be fenced, clearly marked, and have a sign with the name and phone number of the person responsible for it. If the fence is damaged or the sign is missing, boom, there's a fine. Didn't fix it on time? Another fine. And when you bring this up to management, they brush you off with, it's harvest season, we don't have time for that. Need to order medications? Same story. We don't have the budget, figure it out. In some operations, it practically feels like you're expected to trade animals in order to justify buying supplies. It's absurd, but that's how the system works in some places. And the paperwork, oh man, the paperwork. By the time you fill out every form the state requires, the carcass you're reporting might already be spoiled. And the worst part, you're legally allowed to send off almost any animal, lame, down, half dead, as long as the ear tag is in place. Nobody double-checks the condition. If you've seen that viral video of a cow being dragged across the pavement toward a slaughterhouse, yeah, it's awful. But honestly, it's not as unusual as people think. The right way to do it is using proper lifting equipment on a loading platform with trained staff, and the slaughter chute is usually just a few yards away. How that cow ended up out on the asphalt is a mystery, but scenes like that happen when corners are cut. Over time, working in this environment can dull your sense of compassion. Not because workers are cruel, but because if you take every tragedy to heart, you'll break down. Still, there were moments when I saw tears running from a cow's eyes. Yes, cows cry. They understand fear. And standing there, you realize she knows exactly what's coming, and there's nothing you can do. Now about salaries. On paper, agricultural wages in the U.S. look decent. In reality, a farm veterinarian might start at something like $1,500 a month. The highest I've personally seen was around $4,000, and that was considered exceptionally good. That's despite the job being 24/7. Animals don't care if it's Christmas morning or 2 a.m., and the farmhands, the feeders, milkers, and laborers, often make $1,000 a month, sometimes less. Tractor operators? No days off. The guys running feed wagons? They must come 3 times a day no matter what. And they're doing all of this while supporting families, dealing with debt, living in rural towns where jobs are scarce. Most people simply have nowhere else to go. And then there's theft. It's rampant. Workers take home feed, supplements, even medications. If someone has a master key, they can walk into any storage room. Milk from the main tank? Almost nobody drinks it. They know exactly what quality it is. Everyone keeps their own cow at home for personal milk. In rural America, nearly every family has chickens, pigs, or a milk cow. And if you can snag some feed for free, that's like hitting the jackpot. Hay bales, gone overnight. Literally. I've seen 20 or 30 massive round bales disappear by morning. Each one weighs hundreds of pounds. You'd need a tractor to lift them. How do thieves manage to load them quietly? No idea. And the night guard always says, didn't hear a thing. Then there's creative bookkeeping. You can write off almost anything. Drugs, milk, supplies. If milk gets contaminated with antibiotics, it gets dumped or written off, and the milk truck won't take it. But that same antibiotic might get used off the books to treat someone's backyard cow in exchange for cash, or even just a steak. And the logs? You just fill them out like everything was done by the book. Inspections come all the time, but most of them are a joke. You get a call a week ahead. State inspectors are coming, get ready. Sometimes they even call the morning of. You pull an all-nighter rewriting treatment logs so everything looks perfect. There are more than 10 different journals you're legally required to maintain every month. Missing even one form can lead to fines or temporary shutdowns. And when the big federal inspections roll in, they don't mess around. After those visits, management usually starts pointing fingers and doesn't choose words carefully. How do we fix this? Honestly, one of the biggest steps would be shifting away from overly centralized, bureaucratic control. Allow more private ownership. Let people who genuinely love agriculture run farms the way they should be run. When someone's personal money and reputation are on the line, they don't care about fake numbers. They care about productivity, animal welfare, and quality. Private owners invest in real improvements because it matters to them. And despite all the chaos, there is something meaningful in this work. You're dealing with living creatures. You see birth, you save lives. You pull a calf that wasn't supposed to make it, and then you see it growing, running, living. Maybe it becomes a huge steer or a gentle milk cow, and you remember you helped that life start. What breaks my heart are the people who've given 20 or 30 years to this industry and still struggle financially, still drown in debt, still can't afford a stable life. These are the people who keep American agriculture running, who show up every day, no matter what. And yet the system treats them like they're invisible. I hope someday that changes. I hope we start valuing this work for what it actually is: essential, demanding, and deeply responsible. A livestock vet shouldn't be nobody. A farm worker shouldn't be disposable. This industry feeds the country, and the people working in it deserve respect. But right now, in the eyes of the system, you're nobody, and that needs to change.